It's bizarre just how many theists don't understand the concept of deconstruction. I mean, I don't have any problems with it, at least some of it, but people are allowed to take the things in their heads and put them to the test, and they should. So why is William Lane Craig against it? Because it potentially costs him money, of course. That's the only reason. So let's see his stupidity in action. This ought to be fun. Let's be honest, William Lane Craig knows absolutely nothing about anything. He just makes it all up. It's all self-serving, as this video is clearly going to show. He's going to get up on stage with his son and get pitched softball questions because he really can't handle anything else. It's just spewing BS for a buck, but that's all Craig is really good for, right? In fact, that's all any apologist is good for, lying for the Lord and holding their hands out for your wallet. Does that bother anybody else, or does it just me? So, anyway, let's get into it.
The very in vogue thing I think I've seen on TikTok, the deconstructing your faith movement, whatever that means specifically.
Yeah.
Why are you asking your father? Ask the people who are actually doing it. Now, I never used that word when I was deconverting. It wasn't even a thing back then, and I'm not one to follow trends. But hey, if it works for you, knock yourself out. I was just having this conversation with somebody else online where I explained that I went out and I took the stuff that I believed and I put it up against the harsh light of reality to see if it stood up to any kind of rational critical evaluation. It was my version of deconstruction way back in the day. I wasn't questioning if X was true because I was fully convinced that I would be able to prove these things with objective evidence, no problem. But when I found that none of the things I believed on faith were actually defensible, that I couldn't justify any of it with actual evidence or anything remotely reasonable, and therefore, because I could no longer accept faith for the sake of accepting faith, I couldn't believe any of it any longer. That was my deconversion. I cared more about reality than I did about my beliefs, and I don't respect anyone who can't do that, religious or otherwise. So let's get back to Low Bar Bill and see what stupid bullshit he has for us this time, because I'm willing to bet it's not going to be good.
But how would you respond to folks who say that they feel better after doing that?
But before that, I don't care how you feel. Honestly, I don't. Reality is what it is, and you have to deal with it regardless. I don't remember feeling better or worse once I rejected the notion of gods. It was simply a new paradigm to be embraced, and then I just got on with my life. It wasn't really traumatic, even though I had a strong emotional attachment to my former religion. But I think all of that went away once I made it a wholly rational, evidence-based search. I could admit that I was just wrong, and since being right, at least as best as I could be, mattered, getting to the actual reality of the situation was a whole lot more important to me than what I was leaving behind. And to be honest, I really don't miss it at all, even with the good parts, because those weren't real either. I'm much better off as an atheist. I don't need my head being filled with unsupportable junk. And here's a newsflash for you. You don't either.
I think how you feel is irrelevant.
Exactly, but if that's the case, why is Bill so focused on feelings? All of them are. But I feel the Holy Spirit. No, you don't, at least not in any demonstrable way. How do you know that it's the Holy Spirit? Because that's Bill's entire reason for lowering the epistemic bar after all. If there's a 1 in a million chance in all that, it's all feelings. So Bill is already off to a really bad start.
I could well imagine that some people who have been really struggling with Christian faith would feel real relieved about letting it go.
And there's his bald rationalization to make himself feel better about the hemorrhaging that Christianity is going through today. Well, it's all just a phase. They'll be back. Yeah, no they won't. The number of people deconverting far outnumbers the people going the other way by a fairly wide margin. They just have to lie to themselves because they actually do care how it feels. That's about all they care about. This is something I figure I have to have said before, but for an apologist, if you could find one that was actually intellectually honest about it, and good luck on that. But for those people, once they are inevitably informed that what they believe is wrong, what they preach is wrong, whatever, an intellectually honest person would go out and try to verify whether or not that thing that they believe is actually true. They'd do what I did. They'd go out and say, hey, let's verify this in some demonstrable way so that I am actually correct. They wouldn't just shrug like people like Bill often do and then just come back the next night and preach the same thing verbatim. They don't care about the actual truth. They are convinced they already have it, and nothing, no evidence, no argument, nothing at all will ever convince them otherwise. In fact, they are utterly terrified to go and check it out for themselves. Because I did that, and look where it got me. So these people are not honest. They're just liars for the Lord. What the hell else is new?
But that doesn't determine truth. Feelings are very deceptive and misleading. The question is, what is the truth?
That is the question, though. It's the question that I asked myself, and even though I was firmly convinced at the time that I already had the truth, I still had the guts to go and check it out for myself and follow the evidence where it actually led. That's something the religious, by and large, don't have. In fact, earlier today, I was listening to an older call on the atheist experience, and a theist called in, said that atheists choose to send themselves to hell, and Matt and somebody else, I don't remember who it was at the moment, but it was mostly Matt, as usual, got him to agree that God makes the rules, God created hell, stuff like that, and every single time he got that guy into a corner, that guy would just repeat his original assertion, and they'd all be back to square one. He admitted that all of this stuff was true, but the second it looked like he'd have to blame God, he just reset everything and clamped down tight. That is how these people actually work. Luckily, I was never that way. I was only concerned about the actual truth, and Bill obviously isn't at all.
And I am not in the least interested in deconstructing someone's faith. I'm interested in constructing a Christian world and life view that is biblically coherent and in accord with the best philosophical, scientific, historical, psychological facts that we know.
Bullshit, Bill. Just unbelievable bullshit. First off, he's just trying to make everyone just like he is. He doesn't actually care about the facts. He just cares about his faith, which is why he does exactly as I described. He ignores all the evidence that he's wrong, and he just keeps believing because that's what he really wants to be true. He's only in this for his fee-fees, so Bill is a disgusting liar too. What is best supported by science is not his religious beliefs. Philosophy is completely useless in determining if a God exists or not, especially his particular God, because you can't actually get there with philosophizing. That's why he ignores challenges to his faith. If he cared about the best supported position, he'd embrace testing his own beliefs, but he doesn't. He can't. He's got rubes to fleece. That's his entire career, which would be right down the toilet if he actually tried to be intellectually honest. And that's kind of pathetic, right?
And so I think the whole project of building a Christian world and life view is one of construction, not deconstruction.
He's got to make more Christians if he wants to get paid. I mean, I hate to keep coming back to that, but it really does seem to be true, doesn't it? The apologists who are the most widely acknowledged are also the ones with the biggest bank accounts. You don't see these people working a day job so they can go out at night and preach for free, do you? Nope. This is their career. They spend all of their time trying to make a buck off the backs of dumb people who will pay to see them speak. And I am not impressed by that at all, are you? If you are, let me know that down in the comments because I'd like to have a word.
And these people who are deconstructing, I suspect, are just reacting emotionally to bad experiences they've had in the institutional church.
Show me on the doll where the priest touched you, right? Because they've always got to have an excuse. It can't be that Christianity or other religions, since most religions do this, it can't be that they're not actually true. They've got a financial investment in keeping people believing, otherwise they have to go out and get a real job, and I don't think somebody like Low Bar Bill has anything of substance to offer to an actual employer. So there's always their list of stuff that went wrong that doesn't include my actual faith. And I just laugh at that. It really is dumb, but let's be honest, what can you expect?
Yeah, I mean, given the pervasiveness of this on social media and other things, I mean, do you have any kind of ideas or thoughts on root causes or how this has gained traction?
We'll get back to Bill in a second, but everything is pervasive on social media. There probably isn't a topic under the sun that doesn't get talked about somewhere. So what? It's a popular topic because so many people are walking away from religion. That's it. People have a reason to discuss their findings or ask questions, and that's why atheist forums tend to be as busy or busier than the religious ones. People are realizing that all of this is just a scam, and they want to talk about it. Or the religious are freaking out and trying desperately to convince people to come back to the fold. And sorry, but they are very, very, very bad at it. Honestly, go out and read some of the atheist subreddits or forums sometime. Pay attention to the theists who walk in with their horrible arguments that, Bill is famous for, and watch them get absolutely trashed. Not that they care, because they just turn around a day or two later and come back with the exact same thing verbatim. They're not learning anything. They're not refining their technique. They're just throwing religious bullshit at the wall and hoping desperately that something's going to stick. And it's too bad for them that it never ever does, right?
Now, from what I've been told from people who do have more experience with this.
So, in other words, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I know that isn't a remote surprise, but maybe you shouldn't make a video about things that you haven't got the slightest clue about, right? I mean, he'd have to take his entire channel down if he did that because he doesn't have a fucking clue about anything. But come on, if you have no personal experience deconverting yourself, or if you've never talked to anybody who's actually done it themselves, then why would anyone give a shit what you have to say? This is just going on hearsay and blind faith, and that's stupid. But that's kind of Craig's shtick, isn't it? So he's just proven that he's got nothing of value to say, and what else is new in that? We could shut off the video right now and not miss anything worthwhile. But we'll continue just to see him make an even bigger fool of himself than he already does. Because, as I keep saying, what else is new?
Is that these folks tend to come out of very conservative Christian churches that have been authoritarian, and they have often had negative emotional experiences in the church that have left them hurt and damaged and they're reacting against that.
Bullshit. That certainly doesn't describe me at all. I never had a bad experience with the church. I guess you could count the guy who told me that I wasn't allowed to think or ask questions as a bad experience, but I think that was great. It got me out of the ridiculous lie that was religion, or at least it set me on that path. With that possible exception, I have nothing but positive things to say about any of the people that I associated with, at least when it comes to religion. I left because Christianity simply wasn't defensible. I didn't leave because somebody touched me inappropriately. I didn't leave because somebody lied to me, although I guess in retrospect they all did, but they believed it too, so there is that. Because this is the lie that the religious tell themselves because they can't bring themselves to blame their religion or admit that it's not perfect, or more importantly, that it's not true. There has to be something else to blame, even if they just have to make it up on their own, which clearly a lot of them do.
And as I say, following emotions is not the way to get at truth. That is deceptive and misleading.
And all that you do, your whole witness of the Holy Spirit nonsense, is all emotional. There's nothing else to it. This is just another case of not being able to look in the mirror because Craig is guilty of every single one of the things that he complains about. In fact, usually he's the only one guilty since he's only looking at himself and his followers. He has no actual experience with anyone on the outside. He's just projecting. It's why Craig, and let's be honest, just about all apologists, are such a ludicrous joke, because they can't see just how guilty they are of all of it. It's wishful thinking, not demonstrable truth, and he's just trying to make his followers happy so they keep paying him. If you have to lie to keep people on your side, then maybe your side just sucks. Just saying. Think about that one for a while if you would.
And so I guess what I would want to do is not so much criticize them. I mean, we can have compassion on them for what they're doing, but I want to present an alternative, more glorious vision.
I just want reality. That's not what you're after at all. You just want to make more mindless sycophants so you have a bigger audience to sell your crap to. I'm not out there dancing around on a stage like a trained monkey for $1. That's him. That's all of them. I don't care what makes him or anybody else feel good. I care what's demonstrably true in the real world. And sadly for him, his beliefs just aren't. I'm seeing a lot of theists get really, really depressed when I say I'm not interested in their feel-good rhetoric. I care only about the evidence. I've had more than a couple just run away, usually with the standard childish, empty threats thrown behind them, because they don't really know what else to say. And that's kind of sad, isn't it?
Namely, a vision of constructing a Christian world and life view that makes sense of reality and is biblically consistent.
Those two things don't go together. They don't give a damn about reality, which is why they still embrace all the crap in the Bible that is laughably untrue. You get a lot of young earth creationists who scream, "But I care about reality." Yeah, you can't really say that with a straight face. These people don't even know what reality is. You actually have to go outside to find the real world, and these people are too busy shoving their nose in a book of mythology and talking to themselves to know anything about that. See, here's where I start. I am completely neutral. I don't have any preconceptions other than the one that we all have to make, that there is a real world out there and that we have some access to it through our senses. Other than that, I am completely neutral. I don't believe that there are any gods, and I don't believe that there are no gods. I am waiting to be convinced with evidence either way. I will never profess faith in anything, not religious style faith, and their attempts to make their silly faith sound realistic, that doesn't work at all. Calling it confidence means nothing. Confidence in what? What can you prove actually exists that you have confidence in? Confidence needs to be testable and rationally verifiable, and you've got nothing of the sort. So don't throw that bullshit at me. I'm not buying, and nobody else with a brain is either.
I think that positive, glorious project is one that can capture a person's imagination.
Because that's all you've got. Imagination. I only care about reality. I only care about the demonstrable facts. It's why I reject any notion of faith whatsoever. If you don't have evidence to back it up, I am not going to believe it, and neither should you. Then again, I'm not making money off this, and Craig, well, he is. I don't have to trade any of my intellectual integrity for wishful thinking and fee-fees. Craig does. It's why increasingly I'm just bailing on more and more and more religious discussions, because as far as I'm concerned, if they can't demonstrate that their most basic fundamental beliefs are true, with evidence to back them up, then there's no reason at all to continue. I don't have a vested interest in talking to these numbnuts. I've got better things to do with my life. If they can't start at the very beginning and walk me through the steps intellectually, I'm not interested. I might have had a higher tolerance for bullshit in the past, but I'm sorry, as I'm getting older, that is rapidly running out.
And help to free him from these emotional things that would drag him back down.
What you talking about, Willis?
Seriously, this guy is out of his gourd. Everything that he's describing as bad is what his side does all the time. I'm not saying that people can't stop being religious for bad reasons, at least in my opinion, but most people that I see, they aren't being emotional, they are leaving for entirely rational reasons. Religion, all religion, is intellectually indefensible, lacking any demonstrable evidence for its validity. You should walk away from it for that very reason. Granted, leaving because you had a bad experience, that's not a good reason to do it. You should, granted, there's no reason to stick around where you're being abused, but to say, Priest X touched me in a bad place, so I'm gonna hate God, that's just stupid. Just as stupid as what Craig does. Come to these decisions rationally. Care about the evidence. Care if the ideas in your head accurately comport with the real world. If they don't, you've got no reason whatsoever to believe them, and in fact, you shouldn't. So don't. And that was the end of it. I don't know why they stopped subtitling it at the very end, but I guess it really doesn't matter. It's like whoever was doing it just stopped caring what Craig was saying, and in that, I kind of agree. The more that I see him, the less that I care. If this is the best that the religious can do, then they've got even deeper troubles than we thought. Sadly, though, it is. I can't think of anyone that the religious have that is better, and a lot of people that are clearly worse. This is why I'm not holding out for any intelligent theists at all, ever, because I don't think that they exist at all. I don't think that they can, because this is what religion does to people. Anybody with a brain who applies it to their faith, they're already gone. Religion is just an IQ vacuum. All of the apologists are just in it for the fame and fortune, and none of them give a damn about the facts. I never run into anyone who has a well-thought-out argument for their religion. It's always some lazy nonsense they either found online, or saw in a video somewhere, or just dreamed up in a random shower thought that's easily disposed of with 3 seconds of thought. Not that any of them care, because they're not in it for the truth. They just want to feel good. They just want to believe. They just want to maintain their childish faith. Or, in the case of people like Craig, they just want to line their pocketbooks. That's what they're doing, and not one of them can set aside their feelings and just examine their beliefs intellectually and follow the evidence where it leads. Because they don't care. And I find that absolutely sad, don't you?